Starting the hard drive.
Great.
Which camera are you starting on?
It's black, then the credits, and then I'll be going to camera 1.
Okay. Wait, that's the far one?
That's the one with the
One's
one
close
on
to
it.
me. One's close to me.
No.
Oh, I see. They switched them around. One's always been close to me.
Oh,
I was
okay.
going to say.
Sorry. Ten seconds. It'll start with credits, but don't talk. Voices come through.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Free Thought Forum, presented by the Pennsylvania Nonbelievers. I'll be your host tonight, Jacob, and tonight I'm joined once again by Doug, and we have a special guest tonight, Serena. Welcome. So we got a lot to talk about tonight, including the American Family Association bigotry map, as well as the Recovering from Religion hotline. But first we'll get some reminders from Doug.
Okay. Everyone, tonight, the Free Thought Forum. So if you're not tuned in, do so right now and watch this show. Okay?
How exactly does that work?
Well, I'm just
Anyway,
challenging their mind. Wednesday, March the 11th, tomorrow, we'll have the Lebanon PAN meeting. Thursday, March the 12th, there'll be the Harrisburg PAN meeting. That's Tuesday, March the 17th, the Chambersburg meeting. Tuesday, March 24th, will be the next Free Thought Forum. And Saturday, April 4th, will be our next York PAN meeting. Also, we'd like to remind you that we will be marching in the Harrisburg St. Patrick's Day parade. Starts at 1:30, and that's on the 21st of March. So come and join us, cheer us on if you want, or even boo us. Some do, but mostly we get a good reception from everyone that's there. Our next, our first table show, our next booth that we'll be putting up will be on Mother's Day here in York at the Ye Old Mother's Day Fair. So be sure to come and join us. We are on the corner of West Market Street and Beaver Street. You can't miss us. We've got a great big sign saying Pennsylvania Nonbelievers. Now, back to Jacob.
Thank you. And well, before we get into the rest of the topics for tonight, we have a special guest for you tonight, and she'll be talking to us about a secular, a secular Alcoholics Anonymous. As we've known, Alcoholics Anonymous has sometimes been criticized for their religious overtone, and more where groups are forming to give a non-religious alternative. And I'll hand it over to Serena to talk to you all about that.
Great, thanks so much. Yes, I have personally started an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and we're calling our group We Agnostics. We Agnostics is the name of a chapter in the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. And I've been attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings for quite a few years, and I actually had not heard of secular AA, but there is secular AA. The first group that I found was called AA Agnostica. And they have a website, aaagnostica.org, that, if anyone's interested in reading up on them and finding some secular AA writing or writings by people who are either agnostic or atheist. There's a lot of that on their website. And they also have a nice set of listings of AA meetings throughout the country. And they're actually bragging that the number of secular meetings has gone up over the last, I think it's 30 years, to up to 250 in their organization. And that's not the only organization that supports secular AA. There's also another organization called WAFT. And that is We Agnostic Atheist Free Thinkers. And they also host many different Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. They're mostly based in San Francisco and San Diego. But they are also, through the use of the internet, expanding. And one of the tools that they use is Skype. So on Skype, you can have group meetings and conference calls. So they have been using these tools to kind of reach out and find the people in AA who have always been uncomfortable with the religiosity. And I can give an example. Some of you will be familiar with AA's 12 steps and some of you won't. But there is mention of, 12 steps. Everyone pretty much knows what 12-step fellowship is. And the 12 steps basically definitely mention God at, I think it's about 3 times with a capital G. And they also suggest that we seek out God's will for us and the power to carry that out. And I think most of those watching this show right now would agree that that's pretty religious. So in order to actually make the 12 steps usable for a secular AA meeting, they have rewritten them, and I will quickly read them. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. That one's pretty much the same. 2, came to believe and to accept that we needed strength beyond our awareness and resources to restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to entrust our will and our lives to the care of the collective wisdom and resources of those who have searched before us. Now, this would be the step where if you were in a regular AA meeting, you'd be directed to seek out God's will for you. And as you can see in the name of reason, instead of directing people who are suffering to a God which we do not believe exists, we are directing them to reach out to the other people who have gotten sober before them for help. 4, made a searching and fearless inventory of ourselves. And we've removed the moral inventory just because that strikes us as somewhat of that has a religious connotation to it too. 5, admitted to ourselves without reservation and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're ready to accept help in letting go of all of our defects of character. 7, with humility and openness, sought to eliminate our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take a personal inventory and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through meditation to improve our mental and emotional awareness and our understanding of the AA way of life, and to discover the power to carry out that way of life. And 12, Having had a mental and emotional awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to other alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So that just gives people a general idea of the way we modified the 12 steps to remove the religious connotations in it. I didn't know. Did you guys want to ask questions, or should I just
comment?
Okay.
That is definitely something that I could go along with as being part of a group. Okay. There's so many I belong to quite a few organizations, some of which I have dropped out of because they have to start each meeting with a prayer or a benediction, and I'm saying I don't want to be in this organization if they're going to start it with something religious. So
Right.
I like that's.
And I would just say is whenever we look as atheists, we don't want to necessarily be rude to anybody who wants to start religion. Well, I should say sometimes it can make us uncomfortable going through a hard time to also have to deal with religious assumptions, even if they're done with the best of intentions and not. I mean, we don't think they mean anything bad by it. That they really do believe that this is supposed to help. But it can be frustrating to have to deal with that and your problem at the same time.
Yes. And unfortunately, one of the things about the program, and it is well-intentioned, but if you start to question God, if you start to question, what do you mean by something is going to take over and get me better? If you start to question that, you'll be told, don't question. Just as in many other religious organizations, don't question. If you're questioning what God is or where this is going to come from, you're overthinking.
Yeah.
You're full of intellect. You're full of pride.
And you're not putting God in charge.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you seek out the help of people who have gone before you, first of all, you get a variety of things that might help and a variety of things you can try.
Right.
And nobody's claiming infallibility. So you can kind of actually construct your own way to go about it. But still, you'll depend on what has worked, what hasn't worked for others.
Right. I mean, because in my opinion, I don't believe in God. So when people say that God got them sober or God keeps them sober, I just believe that, but they go to meetings, they have a sponsor, they stopped drinking.
Yeah.
Right.
They actually don't drink. And so, I have to nod and smile, but for me, with my beliefs, if you want to call them beliefs, I would say, you're telling me that if I, do a magic incantation, I'm going to suddenly get sober. And I don't believe you.
And how would you know that God is answering you?
Right. Yeah. Well, and the other thing about that is, and this exists in regular religion, there's a lot of self-deprecation involved in saying, well, God keeps me sober. Mm-hmm. Right. And they're well-meaning and they're well-intentioned as far as removing ego from the situation, because ego does tend to be a problem for people. Right. But to say, well, to make people superstitious, and thinking that if they just pray every day, they're going to get better. Well, it simply does not statistically. It doesn't jive, because there are many believers who go to church every week and they still have active alcohol addiction or other addictions. And so believing in God for them has not just solved their problem.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that when you approach other people in your group rather than God, you will get immediate feedback. If you're there with your hands clasped, and you start praying, "Oh God, please help me," you don't know whether or not you are receiving help, but you know it right away if you put your trust in people that have gone through the same thing that you have.
Absolutely.
Like so it takes it out of the fairy tale realm.
Yes.
And it puts it right in smack dab into reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the big book really is written, in how it works. There's a reading called How It Works, and it says, probably no human power can relieve your alcoholism, but God could and would if he were sought. Now, 5 minutes later, it says the only way to stay sober is to help another alcoholic. So, much like many other times when we're looking at religion with a rational eye, it's the same in AA, I have been helped by many, the deists, I've been, I've had many conversations and everything, and it gets quite hairy when they don't agree. But they do try to at least respect, to a certain degree, your non-belief. And they do say, you don't have to believe in a God.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a little bit of, I don't know if you guys know what gaslighting is. So I do something to you, and then when you say, why did you do that? You say, I didn't do that. What do you mean? So they basically say, you have to believe in God, and these 12 steps are written to help you get to believe in God, but you don't need to believe in God.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Well, I think sometimes they will rewrite it to say a higher power instead.
Yeah.
And not necessarily anything in particular, although it's pretty obvious what they mean.
For people that are watching, we'd like to remind you that this is a live call-in show, and the number should be going up on your screen that you can call in. We'll answer the phone, and you can pass a comment or ask a question or participate in the show. So feel free to call in on the number on your screen. And
one other comment I would make is you talk about helping others after you've gone through the program. Really, that shouldn't be an obligation. It should be more out of your own empathy. You've been through that situation, and really, if you look at some of the activists in whatever role they played, it doesn't matter what it is. But usually, when they're trying to help people with a situation, it's because they've been in that situation themselves, and that's the way it should be.
Right. But another criticism of Alcoholics Anonymous and the other 12-step fellowships is that you do have a lot of people who are not professionals.
Right.
And you've got some very serious issues going on.
Right.
But that is what, made Alcoholics Anonymous so incredible to people, was that, you had people taking in the homeless and these hopeless drunks that everybody had tried to help over and over and over again, and they were reaching out and they were reaching these people, and people were turning around their lives. And although religion can be a sore spot for me, if they're doing well for these people, that's wonderful.
Right.
But I would like to see reason and rationality being used as well. I mean, they did create a network. Alcoholics Anonymous is completely free. Anyone can join. You're an alcoholic if you say you are. You're and you're not if you say you're not. You're welcome in any group. They can't keep you out. And you can't force other people to help an individual, but there are many people doing a lot of charitable works in AA that you wouldn't see them doing anywhere else, in order to remind themselves of what they were like when they were drinking and to keep themselves away from drinking. But yeah,
I mean, it's obviously, if you keep yourself busy, you don't fall back into old habits. Is the idea I get from that.
And when you're working, I mean, doing service, what they call service work. Well, I can speak from my own situation, like why I started this meeting. I'm looking for like-minded people such as myself who might not otherwise be able to stay sober and hold it together if they didn't meet others. Because it is difficult to battle some of these problems alone. It's something like alcoholism, it affects your ability to think. Right. But I don't like when religion preys on people when they're weak, right? Yeah. So, and they are known to do that at times. So, to tell people, well, I'll help you, but only if you subscribe to my program where you have to believe in God.
Yeah, but first what they do is they tell you that you are a weak and you are a sinner and everything. And then they will say, but we'll help you. God will help you. But first they tell you, how wretched that you are, to sort of suck you in. Here we are. We'll help you.
Kick you when you're down sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if they really intend it, but that's the way it comes across.
Yep.
It's one of those things. Yeah, it's the best of intentions can't really help you when the foundation is weak, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. And so, my goal for a secular AA would be you can join and you don't need to believe in anything. We're just here to try and help each other out, and we're here just to help because atheists, if your life gets out of order, sometimes you do need help to pull it back together, and you shouldn't have to subscribe to a religion to feel part of a group.
Now, do you have any religious people in this group?
Well, AA there's quite a few.
Well, I mean, even in a secular AA.
Well, in secular AA, of the meetings that I've read, they'll say, we've had deists come and not know that it was going to be secular, and they usually don't say anything. We've never had a huge problem. However, there were a few intergroups that were unwilling to list groups that were not that were secular. I think people have heard about that. They were unwilling, but World Service Office registered my meeting with absolutely no problem. Okay. And the intergroup in Lancaster hasn't, if they do have any reserves, they haven't said anything to me yet. Yeah. And they were willing to list my meeting right along with the other ones, and it's called We Agnostics. So I think, there are people... The most provocative thing that we do is the alteration of the 12 steps, where we take the word God out. But as Bill W. says, these steps are suggestive only. So if I need to word it differently so it makes sense to me, I am, by way of Alcoholics Anonymous, allowed to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, I give them credit that they're not banning, you don't believe in God, we can't have a meeting like that. They're not saying that. Mm-hmm. But there are groups that exist sort of off the grid anyway. Okay. Like on Skype. I don't know if those meetings are listed on the World Service or not, but they would be there anyway. But in my mind, it would be nice to really have everyone, if you're in a treatment center and you go and you're an atheist or you're an agnostic and you go to an AA meeting and hear God, you might just go right back out and start drinking again. Right. And so, to me, this is about reaching the atheists and the agnostics and, Buddhists or humanists or any other person whose beliefs do not include a deity to not suffer. Right. And that's why AA is okay with these, because they don't want any alcoholic to suffer, right, regardless of belief.
Right. I mean, that's always important. When sometimes we argue about religion, but a lot of times there are bigger issues to tackle first.
Yeah.
Like, I remember a couple years ago I went to a marriage equality rally in Pennsylvania, and there was a lot of religious people there. But of course, I didn't say a single word about it then. That's not what I was there to do that day.
Right.
I was fighting for something that I thought was much more important.
Right. Yeah, and if you're in a treatment center and you've overdosed and lived through it, you just need to get sober and stop drinking or using or doing whatever behavior it is. And I just think that, that there are tons of people, though, who are going to say, that's not going to work for me because I don't believe in God. And, they need somewhere to go, and they should know that there are places where, and they're not going to be tricked. They're not going to be told that they're overly using their intellect. They're not going to be told they're stupid, that they're not stupid, too smart, or egotistical, or wrong. We're not going to tell them that. We're going to say, oh, you don't believe in God? We don't either.
Well, the one thing that religion and God will not give you is the human touch. And the human touch is very, very important in everyone's life, whether they admit it or not, like that. And, you go to meetings like that, everyone says, oh, hi, how are you? You shake your hand, maybe give you a hug, like that. That is very, very therapeutic for people, because it's an acceptance. But you pray to God and you say, please help me out, whenever you get round to it, like that. You have no feedback there, but you have immediate feedback from the people there in the meeting that embrace you both into the group and physically as well.
Yeah, that's why AA has been so successful, and even more successful than professional. Professionals have been trying to cure alcoholism for a long time.
Right.
But that's why one alcoholic helping another is so imperative, because if I'm an alcoholic and I'm sober today, I have the experience of knowing what it was like to keep drinking despite it destroying my life. So when I look at this other alcoholic, I'm empathetic, like you said.
Right.
I'm empathetic. Right. And whereas non-alcoholics who have never had a problem like that are going to be like, why do you keep doing that? They're not going to understand.
And I think that's an attitude most people have towards professional therapists is, what do you know?
Yes.
There's whether that attitude is justified or not is another thing, but that's the attitude people tend to have.
Yes.
Is if you're telling me something about something you've never been through, it's we tend to naturally reject advice from people like that.
Like a Catholic marriage counselor.
Yeah, pretty much.
But professionals have means of, well, first of all, when you pay a therapist, you only get 1 hour a week.
Yeah.
And if you're a drinker, you're drinking every day probably. Yeah. And you're drinking all night. And, you need people around you pretty much 24/7, who can listen to you, who will be willing to listen to you. So what AA started was like this huge therapy network.
Yeah.
But you have to deal with and navigate not only the religion, there are other things about it, but at least with this secular AA meeting, we can try and at least steer away from some of that that might cause an atheist to go out and drink and die.
Right.
Or an agnostic to drink and die because they're saying, I don't believe in God, it's not going to work for me. So, there's Skype meetings, there's telephone meetings, but face-to-face really is, we're trying to build a face-to-face network, because like you were saying, nothing quite does it like a one-on-one interaction, like other human interaction. But if all you have is Skype and the phone, it's better than nothing.
Right.
Or it's better than going to, because I get, when I was going to these meetings, like every time I had to pray the Lord's Prayer, I was like, this is like annoying me. It's, sometimes it's like, this is making me want to drink.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to drink over being forced to pray because I don't like it. You know, and they'll say, well, just, you know, you don't have to, you can leave.
Yeah.
Well, now you're the outsider because I have to leave because you're praying.
Yeah. Well, the you know, the good thing about this personal interaction is when you're talking to someone that's got a beer or drink in their hand, like that, and they're calling up and saying, I need to drink this right away. You know what it's like to be in the same position. So you can talk to them, say, no, I was right where you are. Now put the beer on the table and talk to me. Tell me how you feel. And you've taken that drink about 10 seconds after you finish praying, after you say amen.
Yeah. You know, people say to me, it can be very difficult for me to be respectful. I have to remind myself to be respectful. When people say, well, God keeps me sober, you know, I want to say,
Thought of God keeps you sober, not God.
you're contributing the work of yourself and other people to an imaginary being.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what really keeps you sober is your own hard work, which in AA, you're not supposed to say that, like I said. You're not supposed to say that you can keep sober on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's definitely been criticism of that as well.
It takes away the satisfaction of accomplishment.
Yeah. I mean, it's true that, you know, most alcoholics left to their own devices, they'll drink themselves to death. So that's a reality.
Right.
But it's also like, you know, you're coming to meetings, you're going to treatment, you're doing all this other work, you're reaching out to other people. You are doing the work.
Yeah.
You know, and it's working for you. You know, so I try to stay respectful when people are like, oh, God keeps me sober, but it can be very difficult for me.
Mm-hmm. You sort of have to grimace and bear it, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, but I have said to people, that's not helping me. I need to know what you mean. Mm-hmm. What you do. And then, of course, they can't describe it. Well, God just... I'm like, so you God's favorite? God picked you to keep sober, you know, like how come, you know, I know a mother of 6 children who can't stay sober. How come he picked you? You don't even have any kids.
Yeah. Or the people that thank God for the surgeon who just saved their life in a 10-hour operation there. Oh, God saved me. Like that. No, the surgeon that just operated on you saved you. Give thanks to him.
Yes. Right. So I mean, but in terms of, you know, the reality of the situation, when you're telling somebody God will keep you sober, like, what does that even mean? Mm-hmm. You know, it doesn't work for me even if I wanted it to. Yeah. That has no meaning to me.
Is God going to hide your bottle?
Right, like, you know, God's going to come down and, like, stop me from drinking or rip the alcohol out of my hand? No. Mm-hmm. But if I, you know, go to an AA meeting and there's, you know, other alcoholics there and I say, I've got a 6-pack in my car, someone's probably going to say, let's go out together and throw it in the trash. You know, like, these kind of things make sense to me. Yeah. You know, these rational, realistic actions, that's what I need to hear. And that's why I think secular AA is so wonderful, because it will also make things more concrete as to how do people really get and stay sober.
Right. And I think that's the thing the secular community can really offer is a firm foundation. It may not be the most attractive, but it's, I think, the most solid, where it's not grounded in any wish thinking. It's just we take things for what they are.
Yes.
And I think that's important. And you know, there's actually, I would point out, there's a lot of groups like that have been forming over the last few years. For example, Grief Beyond Belief, which you know, deals with people going through personal tragedies, who are looking for, you know, secular help, not, it's like I realize the situation is this happened. I'm not going to see this person again, but I still need someone to talk to, and I don't want to hear, "Oh, you'll see him again," when that's not really what I
Right.
believe.
Because that can be very agitating.
Right. Yeah, and I know I went through a similar experience. Well, I didn't experience the loss of someone, but after a car accident, my brother was in the hospital for a little bit, and I kept hearing family members around me going, "Oh, God is so good for saving him," even though he's sitting in a bed with a shattered kneecap. So it's just and that was just, I wasn't mad at them. I was just like, it just made me sick to hear it.
Yeah. And that's what I have to deal with pretty much every AA meeting. That's why I started secular AA, so I wouldn't have to be constantly hearing these sentiments.
Right.
That-
You can only kind of brush them off and ignore
Yes.
them so much, and then it just gets on your nerves. And you don't want to be hateful towards it, but it's still it's agitating.
The more you're forced to listen to it, because this is the other dynamic that's important, is like, we already talked about, like, you're in this terrible situation and you're not very happy with yourself because you just wrecked your life drinking, and you go to this place to get help, and yes, they tell you, like, you're totally messed up and you need to believe in God, and then when you get yourself better, they don't want to give you any they don't want to give you any credit. They don't want you to
Egotistical.
and I get that part. Like, you don't want to be resting only on your own ego. You do need to admit that you need help,
Right.
that you can't. But that's not actually true of everyone.
Right.
Some people get into a drinking spot and they do quit on their own. Deists and theists and atheists alike. So, I was gonna make another point, but.
It'll come to you.
Yeah. It was about not being beaten down or told that thinking and rational thought are bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I get that for some people you just need not to drink. You just need not to drink. Don't try to have one. Don't try to have two. Don't try to think your way out of it, because you're going to end up in the same bad spot. But it's still good. Thinking and logical thought are good. But so they say, like, don't think too much. And I understand why they say that, but you don't want to keep drilling that into someone's head too much.
Right.
Because we do need to think.
Right.
Yeah,
So.
most definitely. And you need to rationalize.
Yes.
And you need to say to yourself, not, "Oh, how good that next drink is going to taste," but how bad I'm going to feel in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
And will I be able to have one or two? And people, whether they're in AA or not, they actually have to try that for themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I think AAers are trying, it's the same thing as with, when you teach your children religion. You're trying to get them not to sin, quote unquote. You're trying not to get them to do something bad, which is actually, I can understand why you would do that. But if they don't understand why they're not doing something, they're probably going to try to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's the same with alcoholics, believers and non-believers alike. Some of them have to go out and keep trying to successfully drink until they admit, okay, this was not working for me. Oops. So threatening them with a God or telling them not to think, I just don't know if that works. You know.
And if you take that drink, it's an automatic condemnation to hell.
Yes.
You're going to be so much worse if you drink, which you are, but I mean, you don't need to have that drilled into your head and that you are dirt.
Right.
If you take that drink, no, you're weak. If you take that other drink, you're not dirt and you're not pathetic and you're not useless.
Right.
So unless do you have anything else to add on this?
No,
subject?
I don't.
I think we can move on to the next subject. It was a good discussion, but I think the other thing I wanted to bring up was, I've mentioned this a couple of times on the show, Recovering from Religion. One of their new projects coming up, they had in the works for a while, was their hotline project, which has just recently launched and is available now. And what this program is designed for is for people to have a hotline to call if they have religious doubts and really questioning their faith, but have no one to talk to. And I definitely know from experience how if you're going through that, there really is no one you can talk to at first. You don't know if there. Obviously, if you go to the pastor or someone, they're going to tell you to pray and read the Bible. Or you could face serious consequences for even suggesting that you have doubts. So, Recovering from Religion is setting up a hotline that's available 24/7 for people to call and discuss their doubts, and so people can express how they feel, what they feel. Do you have the photo of that to put up? No. Okay. Unfortunately, I was going to post the photo with the number on it, but apparently, due to technical difficulties, we don't have it. I'll try to include a link to it in the description box of the YouTube video to this. And one thing if
you'll give me the number, I'll put it up on the graphics.
Okay, I don't have the number off the top of my head, unfortunately.
I gave you a piece of paper with a big red, no, one of the full-size sheets.
Oh,
yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have a number up for you in a second here. The hotline number will be coming up here shortly. But the project has always taken a little bit of criticism because people are thinking it's some sort of deconversion campaign, that it's meant to try to deconvert people. That if they call up with one doubt, they'll try to hit them with a lot of different debates. But that's not actually what it's designed for. It's it's only to address the doubts people already have, and really guide them to the resources they need in order to explore. Just help people explore the thoughts they're having, and be able to look into it. And if nothing else, just sit there to listen to what they have to say. Because as I said before, when you're in that kind of a situation, it can be, you really feel isolated, alone, and like you have no one to talk to.
Numbers up on the screen.
Okay, the number up on the screen now. And this was a project I think actually about a year in the works. They have, I think, about 60 people now who are at their phone banks, and they should be training a lot more in the coming months. And it's already been some pretty successful as far as the number of people using it. And a lot of these projects like these have shown a lot of success early on, because they seem to be something they've really spawned out of a definite need for them. And but as I said, it's not about hitting them with a bunch of things, and that's really what Recovering from Religion in general is all about as an organization. They're not trying to say, you come to us with one or two doubts and we're going to hit you with everything. Because as most people who have come out of religion know, it's a long process. It can be a very long process. For some people, it can be decades in the works. And there's some things they're not going to be ready for that. I mean, obviously, if you start having doubts, you're not going to go want to read something by Christopher Hitchens or something. Yeah, that's kind of the idea of it. It's like you're not going to be ready for that yet.
Right.
But it wants to give people a transitional period.
But religion you're indoctrinated from so many different sources,
right?
And that's the trouble with it. You by your teachers, by your parents, by your pastor, by your next door neighbor, by the kid that lives next door to you and says, "How come we never see you in church?"
Right.
Or are you going to church?
And
so
and it's not only that, but really your entire perception of the world might be wrapped up in your religion. And when you lose the religion, I heard Jerry DeWitt once describe it as, in recovering from religion, sometimes we have to help people just figure out what their favorite color is anymore. Because it really is that point where you're like, well, what do I think about anything anymore? And even though I don't feel like I was as heavily indoctrinated as some, even when I was coming out, there was I've had to question my stance on every single issue since, and it's been a couple year process trying to kind of sort out what I feel about things. And I wouldn't even say I wasn't that deep into it. So to think about, people who were and what they have to go through if they start to have their doubts and start to question, especially in much more religious areas where you literally have no one to talk to.
Yes.
That's what recovering from religion, especially the Hotline Project, is for, is just to give people somebody to talk to.
And know that there is someone else there that they can speak to, and that they can...
And I would also know that recovering from religion, I was actually listening to a talk by Sarah Moorhead recently, who's... I don't remember what her official title is, but she's a very important member of administrator in recovering from religion, who will actually be giving a talk at our conference in this September. But one thing she was saying is not everybody who comes to recovering from religion actually leaves an atheist. Sometimes they might leave as a deist or some other belief, but it's just really to give them a place to sort out how they feel. And sometimes that's all you need, and that much alone can be very important to people.
Is she the one that went on Oprah a long time ago?
No, that was Anna Laura Gaylor.
Okay, yeah. There was a panel of them.
Okay. Oh yeah,
that was.
I think you're thinking about
Religion Anonymous.
Okay, I don't. Was that the one with Dan Barker?
It was like 3 women. That was really, I don't know.
Okay.
I'll try and post
that.
Link.
Sounds like Anna Laura Gaylor and her mother.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they brought on Dan Barker later. That was them. That wasn't Sarah Moorhead. But yeah, that's so Sarah. So I mean, recovering from religion is definitely a great organization. For all the different things I've just mentioned, and they also have what's known as the Secular Therapist Project, where they'll help you get connected with a therapist who's committed to only using secular means. And I think we touched on this briefly earlier in the show, but I would also, there's actually people have had this problem where they've been coming out of religion, want to seek professional help. But there's actually some professionals who actually tell them to find a different church, like literally. And the therapists themselves who are part of this project don't necessarily have to be atheists themselves. They just commit to using only secular means.
Right.
Things that are grounded in science, are grounded in in factual information.
Using reason.
So, again, the Recovering from Religion hotline has just launched, and I would encourage everyone, if you know someone who's struggling, this would be a good place to send them to. And the last major topic I was going to talk about tonight was the American Family Association, who's a very conservative religious group, as the name of the organization kind of will tell you, has recently released what they called an anti-Christian bigotry map. And this was supposedly all the anti-Christian groups throughout the United States. And they divided these groups up into 4 different categories. They had anti-Christian groups. They had groups promoting homosexual agendas. which is odd to me because they're actually religious groups that promote same-sex rights, as I just mentioned earlier. In fact, I've worked with religious people fighting for same-sex rights, so that's out right off the gate. They also put up humanist groups, and I got a kick out of how they define humanist groups. And this is not misrepresentation. This is the direct quote from how they defined humanist groups. And I quote, "Humanists believe critical thinking and physical evidence are the sole basis for beliefs. Humanists believe science trumps faith in issues of morality and decision making."
Duh.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's
Well,
wrong with that? Is that supposed to offend me?
And somehow that makes you an anti-Christian bigot if you think that.
Okay.
Although I will point out that that's more defining naturalism or skepticism, not necessarily humanism. Humanism is more of a set of values, not what they've just described is more of a process of evaluating the world, which is more aligned with skepticism. But it's still kind of funny that they would instantly perceive something like that as anti-Christian bigotry. And they also listed atheist groups, and you will find that the Pennsylvania Nonbelievers is on that list. Mm-hmm. And they list us because they say we're an associate of American Atheists, and we recently released a response to them, asking them to correct that because we're actually a local partner of American Atheists. We're not asking them to take us off the list. We're because, and it was funny because actually people kind of almost, because of what the American Family Association has done, what I'll get into in a moment. People on that list actually see it as a badge of honor. Like the Center for Inquiry actually put out a press release basically asking why they weren't on the list. It's
They were insulted to be left off.
Yeah, they almost found it insulting. And yeah.
But, we wanted to find, or the author of the article there said, they were going to call up Pennsylvania Nonbelievers President Brian Fields and find out what sort of ungodly things that they do, like that. And his reply was, quote, "We run booths at festivals for outreach," Fields says. "We also have a monthly meeting in several areas across central Pennsylvania. Occasionally, we take complaints from individuals in the area. Sometimes they're not even atheists or agnostics who are concerned about separation of church and state violations." Gee, I guess that we are depraved.
And I would say we do criticize the beliefs a lot, but we do our best not to criticize the people, because you'll find in our organization that a good chunk of this organization are all former Christians themselves. So we know what it's like to be there. We know that we all once believed that they did. So while we'll criticize their beliefs, we don't want to be hateful towards them as individuals.
Oh yeah.
Now,
discrimination against them as individuals is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a part of our thing to discriminate against individuals.
Yeah.
No, because we welcome any individual in that has questions.
And we've worked with Christian groups for certain goals in the past. We're not, it's not like we don't want to have anything to do with them. Mm-hmm. And no, I mean, of course, I might poke fun at individuals like Ken Ham or Eric Hovind, but
it's hard not to.
Yeah, it's the individual, the leadership that should obviously know what they're doing. But the people, the average churchgoer, I mean, we know they sincerely believe what they do, what they say they do, and they really truly want to do what they think is the right thing to do.
We've also joined the Interfaith Alliance, the alliance here in York, also in Harrisburg as well, and work with other groups. And I was on a group here where we were trying to figure out a way to keep bullying out of schools. Now, I mean, we didn't need to, pray for that. What we needed to do was just come up with some concrete suggestions and solutions. And it was there was Catholic priests there. There was several Buddhists there, and of course I was the token atheist.
Right.
That they asked me if I wanted to offer a prayer, and I said, "No, I'll listen to you."
But yeah, now if the whole concept of a bigotry map seems familiar to you, it's because there was already one out there that discussed different hate groups throughout the United States. This one was put out by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they were calling out, like Ku Klux Klan organizations, skinheads, the various well-known hate groups and where they're located throughout the country. And actually, the Southern Poverty Law Center has actually sued a couple of them into bankruptcy. But on their website, on the Southern Poverty Law Center's website, they actually have the AFA listed as a hate group, mostly for their anti-gay agenda. And it's not just because they have a differing opinion. I mean, if you look at the AFA, they're listing anybody who just disagrees with Christianity as an anti-Christian bigot.
Well, of course.
But that's not what the Southern Poverty Law Center was saying. Why they have them they have the American Family Association listed, is for things that the American Family Association has actually come out comparing, basically saying that homosexuals gave us the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a misquote. That's not a misrepresentation.
So.
That's actually what they said.
Oh my gosh.
So it's and the website even lists, like, this is in their own words what they said point by point by point. There's we're not just filling in the gaps or inferring. You can see exactly what they said.
Oh my goodness.
So really, the AFA's map is probably just a retaliation to that, and not a very successful one, I must say so. Because this is really why. We do work with religious organizations from time to time for different things, but the American Family Association, I've nothing but contempt for.
Yeah, we work with Common Cause,
right?
But not with these people.
Right.
Well, it looks like it's winding down. We got about a couple of minutes left, so you got some closing thoughts?
Oh. Yes. Well, before we get to that, I'd like to thank Serena for coming on and talking with.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's always
you're natural. Yep.
It's always good to hear about causes we may overlook from time to time on that show, and that's why we like to encourage anybody who has anything to talk about, wants to come on the show to talk about, to come on or call in about, because there's. Doug and I, we only have so many hours in the day. We only have certain things we can focus on, and there's a lot of things we can miss. So it's nice to see, other people.
And you guys aren't drunk, so you couldn't introduce this topic.
No, hungry but not drunk. Okay. I'm a foodaholic.
Well, I have to say, I was a bit drunk at one point, but there was a day I downed a bottle way too quickly, and
that's not good.
No, and the hangover I got from the next day kind of drove me away from drinking for a while. I was able to stop it before I really fell deep into it.
Good.
So don't forget to tune in again for our next show, the Free Thought Forum. That is on Tuesday, March the 24th, this month at 6 p.m. Same bat time, same bat channel here. So we'd like you to call in and give us your questions. And also you can suggest any other topics. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And we say so long for now. Say so long. So now we just wait and see what's the fame sunset.